Hello, everybody. Welcome to the New York Giants 2025 Pros and Cons and Expectations presented by me, Sdsman, aka the Undisputed Football Genius. If you don't watch the channel very much, I don't make many videos on here, but I am considering making more football videos following the 2025 season. If that's something that interests you, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll start doing it. Either way, I released a New York Giants hype video just yesterday. And in that video, I talked a little bit, or I guess I didn't talk, I showcased the team. And this is me sort of, I guess, doing a more verbal version of that and hyping the team up, but also talking about the cons of this team, just my general expectations. So we're going to get started here. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this, and let's get it going. So I broke this up into three sections here to kind of dissect the Giants. The pros is what I think the Giants are going to be good at, the strengths of this team. Where obviously opposing that would be the cons, the elements of this team I expect to be the weakest. However, in the middle, the question marks, these are the most important aspects of the team because this is the make or break. These could go either way. This could be a strength of the team or a weakness of the team. And we won't really know until the season starts very, very soon, which I am very excited about. So we're going to break down each one of these, starting off with the first pro, that being the edge and pass rush. I think, no doubt, this is the biggest strength of the team. I mean, last year, I would say this was the biggest strength of the team. You know, you have Brian Burns, who is a very, very, very good edge rusher. You have Kayvon Thibodeau, where he hasn't lived up to that number 5 overall pick, but he still is a very solid pass rusher. And of course, down the middle, Dexter Lawrence is just a monster. I mean, he's not only the best interior defensive player in the league right now, he's one of the best nose tackles. And I'm going to say this, I might get some heat for this, but he's one of the best nose tackles of all time. That is how dominant Dexter Lawrence is. He is amazing, right? Already there, you have a very solid pass rush, but then you draft Abdul Carter, number 3 overall. I'm super optimistic about Abdul Carter. I thought he was the best player in the draft. He's the person I wanted the Giants to draft, and they did. I was very happy with that. I think similar to how Malik Neighbors was an instant impact in the offense last year, Abdul Carter is going to be an instant impact on the defense this year. His edge rushing ability, I think, is going to just completely take over games. And now, suddenly, okay, let's double team Abdul Carter. Oh, shit, we can't do that because we have to double team Dexter Lawrence. Okay, well, we'll leave Dexter Lawrence one-on-one in a play, and now you've just surrendered that play because you cannot leave Dexter Lawrence one-on-one. So what are they going to do? And it's not even factor in Brian Burns, who is going to have to be one-on-one pretty much every time. And I think that unless you get some tight end to help out, but then now you leave. What are you going to do with Abdul Carter? It's just like, it's almost like I see this edge rush as like a flood of water coming through a building, and there's like a bunch of different holes, and you don't have time to plug all the holes. So you're going to have to pick and just hope that the water doesn't start rushing in. Because this is going to be, I think, an elite pass rush if everybody can stay healthy. And that is the big aspect of it too. I think an underrated free agency signing is Chauncey Goldston. I did notice that he is not listed as an edge rusher on the roster, but they are going to use him as a pass rusher, I think, for sure. And I think that he is kind of on the same level as like an Azeez Ojulari. Maybe he doesn't have those same flashes that Azeez had, but I think he's a good replacement just in the fact that he's going to stay healthy, and I think he's a great depth piece to have. So I just think overall this edge and pass rush group is a huge strength of this team. I think that group of players are going to single-handedly cause the Giants to win games this year and keep them in games. So I am very excited to see that this year. I think that's easily the biggest strength of this team. The next pro we're going to have here is obviously Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors is an absolute stud. I mean, look, the New York Giants last year, they were hard to watch. It was probably, I would say, the worst year I've ever had to watch the Giants, which is saying something, where years like 2017 and 2023 2023 and 2021 exist. I mean, I could keep going on and on and on. It was bad. It was really bad, no doubt. But imagine having to watch this team last year with no Malik Neighbors. Just imagine the offense with no Malik Neighbors last year. I almost can't even imagine it. And I want to stop imagining it because it sounds fucking terrible. Malik Neighbors was single-handedly the offense last year and single-handedly what kept me not going insane watching Giants games. Although even then I did go a little bit crazy. I'm not going to lie. Still though, Malik Neighbors, an absolute stud. And last year, if you looked at the quarterbacks, he had to play with Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tim Boyle, Tommy DeVito. Like going from that to Russell Wilson, that's a pretty big upgrade. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I think Malik Neighbors is going to have a monster year. I think there were a lot of plays last year that Malik Neighbors, because of the quarterback play, wasn't able to take advantage of. I think of that play against the Cowboys where he broke that defender's ankles, just completely broke him, sent him flying in the other direction. He's wide open. And I think if you have not even a good quarterback, just a decent quarterback, that's a touchdown throw. And there, if you watch a lot of his highlight reels, you just notice like, okay, like this play is amazing because of the throw, right? I think of that throw against the Browns where it's an interception, but Malik Neighbors like jumps, like he puts his arms over the receiver and grabs it from his arms to catch it on the sidelines. Like that is an interception for almost every other receiver in the league. I genuinely do believe this is a breakout year for Malik Neighbors. If he can stay healthy, I believe at the end of this year, he is going to be considered a top 3 receiver in the league. That is how good he is. Next pro, this is going to be a little bit surprising. It's the running game. I think this isn't necessarily the run blocking from the offensive line. This is more so, I just think that I really like the group of running backs this team has. I think Tyrone Tracy is a very solid back. I think he surprised me last year. I didn't expect him to be as good as he is. And I think that he has room to grow, but I think really if he cleans up his fumbles and just continues to elevate the aspects of his game he's good at and just slightly get better, that's good enough for me. And now you add Cam Scatterbo, who strikes me as someone who's going to get you those tough yards on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, 3rd and 3, stuff like that. I think that that's a good combination to have. Plus, both of these guys can kind of play the run game through the pass, right? Catching like 2-yard outs, 3-yard outs, and running down the field and making plays. I think they're both strong at catching the ball. Considering Tyrone Tracy is an ex-receiver, Cam Scatterbo has college tape to prove he can do that. I think this is a very good running back by committee approach, and I'm very excited to see how it plays out. And plus, the depth is pretty good. I mean, you get past Cam Scatterbo and you got Devin Singletary. Like, this is a decently deep running back group. It's not like the best in the league. It's not even, I would say, top 10, but it's a pro of this team. It's a solid running game, and I think it's going to be shown that. And I think the running game is more so not just like handing off the ball, but even like running as passing, if that makes any sense. Like having those like just dump offs, right? I think that's going to be a big pro of this team, and that's yeah, I'm pretty confident in that. Next thing we got here is on the pro side. This is a young team, and I think that's a very exciting thing. I mean, you look at the star players on this team and like the veterans, and they're really not even that old, right? Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, like these guys are still relatively young, right? And now, obviously, we talked about Malik Neighbors, and I think the rookie class from last year and this year has potential to be really good. And just in general, this team is a young team, right? I know Russell Wilson is the 3rd oldest starting quarterback, but in the league, but this is still a young team, right? No doubt about it. You take him out, and he's only here a year anyway. He's not part of the future. But I like what this team is developing. I like that they're getting young talent and they're developing them. That is a good recipe for success. And even in free agencies, the players they're bringing in, right? Like Paulson Adebo, Javon Holland, these are young players still, right? They're still relatively young in their prime. So I am excited about that. I think that is a good sign for the future. And a pro of this team is that we have a young team that can develop throughout the year. And I think when I'll get to my expectations, that is a lot of what we're looking at this year are the young players. Final pro. This is sort of like a two-parter. It'll make sense when I get to the second part. But the first part is the quarterback floor is raised. Okay? The quarterback floor is raised No doubt about it, right? I mean, just looking at the floor last year, it was pretty bad, right? Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, it's that's a low fucking floor, right? I mean, I'll say this right now: Jameis Winston, our third quarterback, could be second. We could argue it was Jackson Dart, but let's just say he is our third quarterback, right? Jameis Winston. He's better than all three of those quarterbacks, all four of those quarterbacks we had play last year, and that is our back end quarterback room. That is the third quarterback. So when you look at all that, I think that the floor of this quarterback room is raised to the point where, at the very least, it's better than last year, which, might not be the biggest pro in the world, but if your quarterback play is getting better, that is what you want, right? Obviously, you want that every single year, but the quarterback floor is no doubt raised, and that is, I think, a pro of this season compared to last season's. And I'll kind of go into this more when I get to the second part. So we talked about the pros. Let's get to the cons. I think the first con of this team is going to be the run defense. I am very scared of this team's run defense. I think that Dexter Lawrence is going to be healthy all the year. At least I'm hoping he's going to be. But even with Dexter Lawrence, who is good against the run, I am concerned about this run defense just because of the guy playing next to him, whoever that's going to be. They signed a few guys in free agency. They drafted Darius Alexander. None of them look ready to take that spot, and that's very concerning to me. So even with Dexter Lawrence, I'm pretty concerned about this run defense. I'm hoping that it is improved from last year. But it's not really a question mark to me. I think it is going to be a weakness of this team, and I think that they're going to have to rely on their edge and pass rush to overcome the run defense. But if I'm scheming this team and I expect the edge and pass rush to be as good as it is, I'm running the ball on this team or finding ways to get running backs in open space against this team because I am just not very confident on this run defense. I think it is going to be a weakness of this team, and I think that they are going to have to scheme up defenses to overcome the run defense. And I'm not so sure Shane Bowen can do that. He's not listed in the cons here or really anywhere, but Shane Bowen is somebody who I'm not the biggest fan of. I mean, if he can't make this defense good, he can't make any defense good, right? Especially with the pass rushers. I do have genuine concerns about the run defense, though. I think it is going to be the biggest weakness of this defense, and I'm hoping that it just doesn't wreck games because it does. If you have a really bad run defense, it does have the potential to just break a game wide open if you have a running back just going off on your team. So, guess we'll have to see. Another con of this team, I'm going to say wide receiver depth. We talked about how great Malik Neighbors is. I do think Darius Slayton is an underrated wide receiver. I think that a lot of people are going to have more respect for Darius Slayton, of course, if he can clean up the drops. But just in general, I think when you see him play with a competent quarterback, which he's never got to play with, that he is going to absolutely excel. I don't think he's going to be like this stud number one, but I think he's going to be a very solid number two. It's just after that is where you get concerned. I'm not a huge believer in Wan'Dale Robinson. I get it, he's in the slot. He's important to have. I don't think he really matches with what Russell Wilson is good at. I think that's a pretty big concern I have with when it comes to Wan'Dale Robinson. But even then, like he's not a wide receiver. He's a very replaceable wide receiver, and I don't think he's a wide receiver that changes your team, right? And then after that, it's pretty bad, guys. I mean, Jalen Hyatt, I think is just I'm out on Jalen Hyatt. Bo Collins is whatever. I really think the Giants need to get a wide receiver on their practice squad or on their team, like somebody else, like a competent number two, even number three wide receiver. Because after Malik Neighbors and Darius Slayton, I am very concerned about the wide receiver depth, and it just takes one, maybe two injuries to make this the worst wide receiving room in the league. So we need to get that fixed. So that is definitely a con of this team right now. Is the wide receiver depth is pretty atrocious. Next con I have here is a tough schedule. I've seen people debate the aspects of a tough schedule, and I will say that what a schedule looks like now might not be how it looks throughout the season, right? I think about the 2022 season right? You see the Ravens on your schedule, you see the Packers on your schedule, and you say, okay, there's no way we're beating Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson. Guess what? We beat both of them. So the schedule can definitely change. I think what makes a schedule tough is when your team is bad. If your team is bad, of course you're going to have a tough schedule, right? I mean, if you give the Ravens our schedule right now, sure, you might say they have a tough schedule, but no one's saying that's a con because it's the fucking Ravens. They should be able to beat any team, right? It's kind of the same thing here. Is I think that, or the opposite here, I should say. Whereas the Giants kind of have sucked for a while, and I don't think they're going to be great this year. I'll talk a little bit more about that in my expectations, but I think the tough schedule is something to kind of be aware of. I mean, you have to play, both the NFC, both teams that made the NFC Championship last year, and of course the Super Bowl winners and the Eagles and the Commanders twice. I think that some of the other teams you have to play, the Lions, the Packers. It's going to be tough. Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos. I think that the schedule is tough. I don't think that it's going to be the reason why they lose games or have a bad season. I'll say that much. But I do think that if this team had an easy schedule, we could say, oh, this team might make the playoffs. This could be a fringe playoff team. But I expect the schedule to kind of be the reason that doesn't happen. But then again, this can change throughout the year, right? What we expect of one team may be different than what we expect them later in the season, whether that be because of they're just different than what we saw them foreseeing or injuries. I mean, that's a huge part of football. If we're going into week 3 and I'm knocking on wood, I obviously don't want this to happen, but if we're going into week 3 and Patrick Mahomes is hurt, right now suddenly, okay, we have a chance to win this game, right? So I think that the tough schedule is something that does fluctuate as the year goes on, but it is definitely an aspect of this team to be aware of, or aspect of this something the team has to go through this year. And I do think as of right now, it is a big con of this team. Is they have a lot of tough opponents to play, and that's definitely going to hold them back, I think, a little bit. The next con I have here is safety depth. I am pretty excited to see how Tyler Newbern plays. I really do also like the Javon Holland signing. I do really like that. It's just after that, when it comes to depth, that I'm concerned about. And look, I could kind of talk about depth at different positions here. I do think this team overall has much better depth than they have in the past, whether it be in the edge room, the quarterback room, even the running back room, as I mentioned. But when it comes to like the safety depth, I am a little concerned. Like one injury and suddenly, who the hell are we putting out at safety? I'm a little concerned about that. So we'll ultimately see how the safety depth plays, or how it plays out, I should say. But I am excited about the safety play, but the depth, kind of like the wide receiver depth, has me a little bit concerned. And the last con here, this is sort of like the second part to the pro, whereas the quarterback floor is raised, that's a pro, but the con is, but the quarterback ceiling isn't that high, right? Sure, are we going to be better than, is the quarterback room better than last year? Sure, but what's that saying, right? Like, I think we could agree that if we weren't the 32nd worst quarterback room last year, the only other team I could think of that could be worse were the Raiders. So what are we, 31? So sure, we're not as bad as 31, but how high are we, right? We're not going to be top 10. We're not going to be top 15. What, 20th, maybe 19th? It's possible. I am a believer in what the vision that this team had and assembling their quarterbacks, drafting Jackson Dart, getting the stopgap, getting Jameis Winston as a backup. I think it was a great strategy that ultimately I think that I applaud them for doing that. But at this point, right, at the 2025 season as right now, how high is this quarterback ceiling? I don't think it's that high. So I sure, are the quarterbacks going to be so atrocious that we don't stand a chance any game? No. But are they going to elevate this team to where they're going to carry the season? I don't think so. So that's sort of where I'm at in the quarterback room as of right now. I am going to talk about the quarterback room in just a second here when we get to our question marks. And what these question marks are, is, as I mentioned earlier, these are the make or breaks of the team, right? If they're strong, it's going to be a pro. If they're weak, it's going to be a con, right? So this is, I think, how the question marks play out is going to determine the Giants' season, right? If most of them play out well, the Giants are going to have a successful season. If most of them don't play out well, the Giants are not going to have a successful season. So talking about quarterbacks, let's get to the first question mark. It is Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson is a very interesting quarterback to talk about because I think most people agree he's washed, he's past his prime, right? He's not very good. And I can see where those guys are coming from, and I agree with them. He's definitely not what he used to be. But I think Russell Wilson can still throw a really good deep ball. I do think he struggles in the quick game, but listen, his deep ball is awesome, right? I am very excited to see that. And I think if the Giants can have explosive plays and Russell Wilson can chuck it deep and rely on the defense, I think that this could be a competent team. We haven't seen many explosive plays from this team over the last 6 years, but if we can get back to having explosive plays and scoring just very quickly, that changes the pace of the game. That changes a lot. And I'm hoping Russell Wilson can do that, but there is no doubt there is a strong possibility he can't do that like he used to, and that he's just completely unplayable. That is very possible. So he is a question mark for me. I am of the belief that while I don't think he's going to be a pro of this team, I don't think he's going to be a con. I think he's going to have moments where we go, oh man, Russell Wilson, Daniel Jones could have never done that, right? And there's going to be moments where we say, okay, why the fuck is this guy start? What the fuck is this guy doing, right? Yeah, he takes a lot of sacks. He's not good in the quick game, but he does. I will say he's the most knowledgeable quarterback we've had. I think. I think he gives us an advantage pre-snap that we didn't haven't had in a while. I think that he can read defenses much better than we've been able. Our quarterbacks have been able to read them, and I do think that his biggest role is that he's a good mentor. He's a good leader, and I think that he is a great quarterback to have shape Jackson Dart. And I think he's a great stopgap quarterback to have for a year. I will say that. Russell Wilson won't be on this team next year, but I think that the quarterback plan overall was great. And I think that Russell Wilson is a serviceable quarterback. We'll just see if he's able to actually win games this year. Next question mark I have here is Andrew Thomas's health. This is probably has become my biggest question mark over the last week or so. So Andrew Thomas, his health has been a concern. He hasn't really had a healthy season outside of 2022. He's had many different injuries, and he had a pretty horrific injury last year to end his season pretty early. And coming into this year, my question mark would have been, can Andrew Thomas stay healthy? And now my concern with recent developments is, can Andrew Thomas start? When is Andrew Thomas going to start, right? It seems like he is probably not going to start week 1, or at least it's a huge question mark. But if he has said that he's doubting if he's going to start week 1. I think that he's probably not going to start week 1. And while I do think that the tackle group is better, or the tackle depth, I should say, is better than it's been in the past, it's still not good. So this team is significantly worse, I think, without Andrew Thomas. Our offense is significantly worse without Andrew Thomas. And I guess as a whole, the team is worse without him. So I really am concerned about this. If Andrew Thomas can stay healthy, this is a much different team. If you tell me right now Andrew Thomas is healthy and playing as he played for 17 games, okay, guys, we might be a playoff team. Like that, I'm so serious about that. That is how much of an effect I think he has on this team. It's a huge question mark. How much will he play? When will he be ready to play? And how long will he last out there? That is a huge question mark. And I think now is getting to the point where, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but because he's been so injured, that it may be time to try to find a replacement for him. But that's very hard. I think people don't. Maybe people do realize that Andrew Thomas is really good. So I guess we'll ultimately have to see how he plays. But yeah, that's something we'll have to see. Next up here, big question mark just in general outside of Andrew Thomas is the offensive line. Even with him in there, it still is a question mark. JMS is a big question mark for me at center. I'm not sure about him at this point, and that sucks because I really liked him coming out of the draft. But at this point, I'm not so sure that he's going to be the guy. Jermaine Illuminor, I think, is solid. But what's their guards going to look like? How early are we going to see Bo, if at all? And then, of course, Andrew Thomas as well. Just in general, like I could see this O-line being atrocious. I could see them being decent. I don't see them being great, but I could see them being decent. And if they can be decent, again, if they can just be average, like league average, guys, this is a good team. I'm serious. This could be a good team, I should say. Not like a great team, but this could be a good team. So we'll ultimately have to see. But the O-line is a huge question mark, and that is going to be a big factor determining how this team is going to shake out this year. Next question mark we have here is the secondary, specifically cornerback 2, although I do have some question marks about the secondary outside of cornerback 2. I like the Javon Holland signing, but he needs to sort of show himself a little bit more. He does need to improve on what he did last year, and hopefully he's able to do that. I love the Paulson Debo signing. My concern about him is how healthy can he stay. He's someone who's throughout his career has been injured. So he's somebody who I want to make sure he can stay healthy, because if he goes down, we might be fucked, guys. We might be in a bad situation, right? And just I guess in general, cornerback 2 has me concerned, whether it's Deonte Banks or whether it's Cordell Flott. I don't know who's going to win that job. It looks like it might be Cordell Flott's job. Either one concerns me, and it's a huge question mark, right? If our cornerback 2 can play well, let's just say suddenly our cornerback 2 is a pro. Again, this team is good, right? All of these, any of these are pros, or all of them are pros, this team is good, right? I just am concerned these are going to be cons of the team, and it could go either way, and therefore that's why it's a question mark. But still, I don't know how I feel about the secondary. It is improved from last year. I will say that much. I think the floor is raised, but sort of like with the quarterback room, how high is the ceiling? I think Paulson Debo is great at getting turnovers. I think Javon Holland is a very solid safety, and I think Tyler Nubin is going to have a breakout year. I will say that. So I think the safety outside their depth is going to be a pretty strong part of this team. It's just that the cornerback 2, man. I mean, football fans know if you have a bad cornerback out there who is just like who is just a weak link of the team, quarterbacks will pick on him, and that can just unwind, a defense. Now the edge and pass rush might be so good that like it's going to help the secondary, and I do genuinely believe that's going to be the case. But on plays when they can't get there, if you have a secondary just or quarterback 2 just completely blowing an assignment or not, or in the case of Deonte Banks not turning your head, the dude can just not turn his head. He plays coverage pretty well, cannot look behind him. If you have that going on, like that can completely wreck a defensive game plan. So it's a question mark for me. It's a genuine question mark for me. The next question mark I have is Theo Johnson. I think a lot of people are really high on Theo Johnson, that he has a lot of potential. I'm sort of in the middle. I need to see a little bit more from him. I think that Theo Johnson has the potential to have a breakout year, but I also think he has the potential to kind of disappoint people and not be the player that we expect him to be. I would love to see Theo Johnson have a great year. I do think that having Russell Wilson will help him. I do genuinely believe that. It's just what Theo Johnson will we see and how much of impact will he have. I don't have too much else to say about this. It's just a question mark for me. I would love Theo Johnson to be great or even good. But that's something that, we're going to have to see. He obviously didn't play all of last year. He had some flashes. He definitely has potential to be a very solid tight end. But I think at the end of this year, we'll have a little bit more of an idea of where he's going to be in his career, if he stays healthy, of course. And just my question mark with him is just how good is Theo Johnson, right? We'll have to see. And then the next question mark I have here is Graham Gano. Now, look, this question mark has definitely been answered a little bit more during the preseason. Going into the preseason, I was very concerned that Graham Gano wasn't the same guy. But watching how he played in the preseason game for the Buffalo Bills, he looked good, right? He made some 50-yard kicks. I will say with preseason, like kicker, right, is like one of the positions where like you can actually kind of judge fairly, because like nothing's really changed, right? Like you either make kicks or you don't make kicks, right? And Graham Gano last year obviously didn't have his best year, but he was hurt. That was really the biggest thing. He got hurt, obviously, during the Washington game, which caused us to lose that game. But my question mark with Graham Gano is just, can he kind of return to that form in 2022? I think he can. I'm a little. This is out of all the question marks, this is the one I'm probably the most optimistic on. But he has gotten hurt the last 2 years, so his health is a question mark as well, as long as with his play. So Graham Gano is a question mark. If Graham Gano can play well, kick those field goals, be a reliable kicker, I think that this team is better. So Graham Gano is a question mark. We need him to show up this year, and hopefully he does. All right, the last question mark I have here is going to be when or if Jackson Dart starts. So again, this is something that changed throughout the preseason. I am not trying to overhype Jackson Dart, but I was impressed with his preseason, especially considering where my thoughts on him when we drafted him, which honestly wasn't that high, right? I viewed him as a project that has potential to be good, but as someone who is going to take a while to get to that point. But after the preseason, I'm thinking, okay, maybe he's farther along than I expected. And Brian Dable, who we hired him as a coach to develop a rookie quarterback, this is his fourth year and first opportunity to do that, which is fucking crazy. But if it looks like his developmental plan for Jackson Dart from the preseason is good. I'm pretty optimistic about his plan when it comes to Jackson Dart. But the question mark here is, when does he start, or does he start, right? Now, I'll be honest. I do not want Jackson Dart starting this year. I'm still on that page. I would prefer him not to start and to develop, right? But the reason I prefer that more than anything is because that means that we're winning games, right? These two guys are on the hot seat. They want to win games, right? And if Russell Wilson is in there and he's not even particularly playing well, but they're winning games, Russell Wilson's going to stay in there, right? It's when Russell Wilson starts to look bad and we start to lose games that it's going to be, okay, when are we putting Jackson Dart in, right? Once our season's lost, once we're eliminated from the playoffs, or generally eliminated from the playoffs, right? Maybe not technically, but we're like 2-9 and we could still make the playoffs, but you know what I mean? We're out of it at that point, you know what I'm saying? I would start Jackson Dart then. Because I think generally speaking, we just want Jackson Dart the next year is Jackson Dart's year, right? He's a rookie quarterback. I think it'd be very unfair to put expectations on Jackson Dart to carry the team or even be good this year. I think the proper expectations we want him to develop, right? And obviously if he looks good this year, that's great. That's what we want, right? But to say that's the end all be all is, I think, a very unfair expectation. Next year, that's a fair expectation. But for me, it is a question mark on when he starts, because when he starts playing, it either means someone's injured, it either means that the season's lost, or it means that they're just saying, fuck it, let's put him out there. And I think that that's a huge question mark, because if they put him out there too early and ruin his development, that would be catastrophic for the future of the Giants, right? So this is a very, very important thing, not only for this season, but for the future of the team, is when Jackson Dart starts, how he looks, and all that kind of stuff. So I am of the thought that I think he'll start probably around like week 9, week 10, somewhere around there. Maybe like right around the bye, like late before the bye, maybe around the Patriots game, I could see him starting because the season's lost. But hopefully, we don't need him to start this year. I mean, that is the goal, right? It would be a pro in my eyes. Right? I guess the best pro would be he has to start and then he's amazing. I guess that's the best pro, right? That would be the best case scenario. But I think the most reasonable case scenario, and it still would be a pro, is that Jackson Dart doesn't start this year because Russell Wilson and the team is playing well, right? They're playing well enough to be competitive in games and winning games, and Jackson Dart can develop. That, I think, is the ultimate question mark here, though, is if we're able to do that. So that's my pros, that's my cons, that's my question marks for this team. Let's wrap this up by talking about my general expectations for the 2025 season. You probably have kind of gathered it through my pros and cons and such that I just went over. But here is my expectations of this team. Or actually, let me hold up and run it back a little bit. Before I talk about the 2025 expectations, let me go over my expectations over the last couple seasons so I can kind of put it in framework, right? Give you guys kind of a baseline, because some of you may wonder, am I a super optimistic fan? Am I a super pessimistic fan? And I think it kind of depends on the year, right? Last year in 2024, I was super low on the team, right? I didn't expect us to have like the worst record in the league, but I was like, we're not going to be a good team, right? I saw Daniel Jones in the preseason. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I remember throwing that pick six. I believe it was against Texans, and I think he threw an interception deep down the field in the same preseason game. And then I really was like super low on the Giants last year, and it turned out to be right. But I'm not always right. 2023, coming off of that 2022 season, I had very high expectations of the team. We just got Darren Waller. We're going to be, I think, a very solid team. And it turns out very wrong on that. It was a pretty bad team that year. Had that run at the end of the year, but still overall bad team. 2022, however, my expectations were, okay, we got a new head coach. We're not going to be that good. Let's just get through the year. And we were good that year, right? Sort of actually the same expectations I have in 2025. Maybe a little bit more than I had in 2022. I don't expect us to have a 2022 like season. But I mean, what I mean by that is my expectations going into 2022 were like, okay, well, let's see where our team is at the end of the year. And that's sort of my expectations in 2025. I think Russell Wilson is a stopgap, right? Sure. How does he do? I guess we'll see. But for me, I do not expect this team to make the playoffs. I don't expect them to be a great team. I'll be honest, I don't even really expect them to be a good team. Okay? But considering where the Giants have been, right? At the very bottom of the league, right? The bottom of the bottom, the worst of the worst. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people this year. I think they're going to be a team that is competitive, right? That makes games close, right? We're not. I don't think we're going to see. We might see a couple of blowouts, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of blowouts. I think we're going to see this team really stay in a lot of games, right? Now, I do think they might get a couple surprise wins, but I don't think this team is going to be necessarily a team that is going to be good, right? I still think this team has a losing record. I'll get to the record prediction in a second. I still think this team has a losing record, but they're not at the bottom. I think they are like. There's a moment where, okay, this team might be able to make the playoffs, right? Maybe a fringe wild card team, right? So that would be, I think, their ceiling from this year. Look, though, here's the thing. I think this team has something they haven't had in many, many years, and that is a direction. That is a vision, right? You could say they had a vision after 2022, but it was not really. It wasn't less so a direction. It was more so a turn, right? I think they went in the 2022 saying, okay, Daniel Jones is going to be gone. We're going to start rebuilding this team, and then they had that surprise year, and they just made a complete left turn. Okay, let's go in this direction now, right? And it didn't work out. I think last year was the end of that turn, right? They had to go through that because of the contract for 2 years. But now they're at the point where they start over, and I like the direction they're going. I love what they did in the offseason. I love their draft this year and last year. I think they're acquiring young talent. I think they're building a team. And I think at the end of this year, you go in the next year with Jackson Dart. And, I think next year, it might change throughout the year. We'll see. But I think as of right now, my prediction would be that at the end of 2025, going in the 2026 offseason, they're looking to, get, upgrade at cornerback. Hopefully we don't have to because Deontay Banks is good, but I'm not expecting that. Upgrade at cornerback, upgrade the run defense, upgrade the O-line, and upgrade wide receiver. And suddenly, holy shit, this team is looking pretty good, right? Like, you get a solid wide receiver, too, to play next to Malik Neighbors and Slayton as your third receiver. And now you have you put a lot of resources in the O-line and the offense. Suddenly, and if Jackson Dart can be what he is, suddenly this team might be, holy shit, we're actually good now, right? There's hope. There's hope. That's what I'm saying. Is last year, and even 2023, I had hope, but in the middle of 2023, all my hope kind of disappeared, and it hasn't come back until now. I am excited about the direction of this team. I just don't think the direction of this team is going to make this year's team great. But I will say they've done everything they could to make this team good. I do like what they did with the Russell Wilson signing. I do like what they did in the draft. I do like what they did with the Paulson Adebo signing. I do think that this team is going to be better. I think they're going to be more respectable. I think they're going to be in games more. Again, with the tough schedule, how many wins does that translate to? I think this is considering their schedule, this is a good amount of wins. I think the Giants are going to end the year with 7 wins. And I think that's respectable. Now, some might say that's a losing record, but that would be more than double our wins last year with a harder schedule. And on top of that, be excellent in terms of the direction of this team. Okay, suddenly we have these pieces to win 7 games. Let's build off that, right? Let's get our wide receiver depth improved. Let's get our O-line improved. And of course, next year, the biggest question mark, the biggest deciding factor of this team will be Jackson Dart. And if Jackson Dart can be good with a strong roster around him, it's looking like that could be the case, right? That's the hope, right? Suddenly, we're good. But it's not going to happen this year, I don't think. So my expectation of this year, again, 7 wins. I think they'll be a solid team to be much more competitive. I think people will be surprised by the Giants, respect them a little bit more. But I think this is a very much a bridge year. This is very much a year to develop your young talent, see what you got in the draft class, see what you got in the defense, right? And a lot of these players are going to be here next year, right? Uh, we'll have to talk about Jermaine Illuminor, and I'm sure there's some other free agent signings, but like all the edge rushers are going to be here next year. Most of the talent is young, so we're going to be able to retain them. They're still in their prime, right? I mean, we'll see about like Bobby Okereke, for example. There's some question marks on who's going to be here next year, but I think that this is going to be, hopefully, my expectations and hope is that this is going to be a good building block foundation for the future of this team. Now it's the New York Giants. It could completely fall apart. I could be completely wrong, and hopefully I'm not. But I genuinely do believe that this team is going to be more competitive, and I'm excited to see how much of that is the case. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this video. I will make more New York Giant content or just football content in general. I'm a huge football fan. I do follow all 32 teams. So let me know if this is something you guys liked. I can do more of this. Maybe even do like game previews, kind of like this, break down what I expect from each game. Maybe game reactions, although I am a pretty emotional fan, I'll be honest, both when they win and when they lose, especially like, the day of. Maybe that would make good content for me to come on here and fucking scream or come on here and just like completely overhype and overreact to the Giants. Either way, though, let me know if this is something you guys are interested in. And let's go Giants. Go check out the hype video I made. And come on, Giants. Let's fucking surprise them, man. Let's have a great season. Thank you all for watching. And I hope y'all enjoy week 1 of NFL 2025 season.